Okay. We are ready to resume the board meeting. And the next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, and I believe we have a senior of the month. Would you mind helping me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my. All right, here we go. Ready? No. Okay, come on up. All right. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the best pledge I've heard all year. You did an excellent job.
Thank you so much. Okay. So we're ready for our next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of agenda. Do we have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Mr. President, I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Do we have a second? Mrs. Stewart Campbell seconds. Any further discussion? All right. We'll move to a vote.
Vote is open.
Okay, Dr. Schumacher is not present at the vote, and Dr. Bonebrake is not present at the vote, but the motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lister. All right. The next item on our agenda, school highlights.
All right, this is the favorite part of the agenda. We'll start off with the video to highlight our senior of the month. And as that winds down, Mrs. Watson will be coming up to introduce our senior of the month.
Sorry, wrong one.
That's fine.
Here's the exciting piece. It is Highland Park night. So I'm telling you, woo, and if you graduated from Highland Park, raise your hand. I knew some of you folks graduated from Highland Park over here. So whatever you're here for, whether it's for Highland Park or something else, Highland Park has made its impact on the community. And we are so excited to celebrate Highland Park. We'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Jada Watson and I'm a senior at Highland Park High School. I am the varsity cheer captain. I've been on the squad for 4 years. I'm also a part of Wild Link, a mental health group, and I'm also the president of Girl Up.
From freshman year, Jada has always wanted to be a part of Highland Park. She has grown into the most beautiful young lady. She dazzles, she sparkles, and just to see her grow into herself and to be confident.
When you walk in a classroom, instead of the teacher saying, hey, good morning, everybody, good afternoon, Jada's the first one. Good morning, good afternoon, and she'll call you, Mr. Edmiston. How was your day today?
One thing about Jada, if I don't see her at the games, I definitely hear her at the games. And that's one thing that I admired when I first started working here. Those are the things that the players feed off of when they hear the cheerleaders and the fans going crazy.
It's unworldly. I love to see my boys win and I love to see my girls win. I love being on the court and hearing the crowd and everybody cheer and scream as soon as we make a basket.
She was one of those kids, when you saw her walk down the hall, she just looked different than everybody else. The way that she thinks and sees things, she's just a natural leader.
I plan on going to Ottawa University with a major in entrepreneurship and a minor in athletic training and coaching. I plan on starting my own all-star cheer gym here in Kansas because there isn't that many all-star cheer gyms specifically for cheer here in Kansas, and I'm wanting to spread it out and make it more of a worldwide known here.
She's incredible, and I know the reason why she wants to open her own cheer place and to work with kids is because she wants them to have the same experience that she's had, to where a place is accepting and they're flexible and they grow young ladies. It's just been great because she's planning and talking to people, and I am going to go see her cheer. There's nothing that's going to stop me.
When I first met her, it was her sophomore year. It was a lot of plans. I want to do this, I want to do that. And now I realize that it's not just a bunch of words on paper, there's action right behind her words, and she's making things happen.
Take it all one step at a time. I would not say try and push yourself to do everything at once, and don't put so much pressure on yourself. I've definitely felt myself come out of my shell more. I am very more of a social butterfly thanks to Highland Park, and I feel like I found myself here at HP.
All right. Come on up, Ms. Watson. And Jada, come on up. Let's give her another round of applause. Let's turn this on over to Ms. Watson. She has some comments, and then we'll have a few questions for you.
So I just need to let you understand how painful it was to grab a black and gold bag. I just wanted to let you know, like, only for you, Jada. Thank you. So this is from Highland Park. Open it so they can see. We wanted to make sure that she started off with her Ottawa gear. And then anyone who knows Jada, she sparkles, she shines, she glitters. So I said, we have to find something that glitters. Shiny. Another thing about Jada is she loves stickers, she loves scrapbooking, she loves all of that. We've been growing our glitter, everything in red and green, everything in pink, and I thought, she has nothing in black and gold. So this one's for me. And she can open it later, but it is all the glitter, all of the washi tape, all of the everything she could need. Everything's in black and gold. Again, very difficult for me to do this.
Thank you.
So thank you, Jada. I am so proud of you.
Yeah, they probably have questions. Your certificate, which was given to you, is also on the screen, but can you stand in front of the mic? And we're gonna just open this up to the president to take it from here.
Yeah. We're very proud of you, Jada. Keep up the great work. I think you are on a trajectory to do some really awesome things. So we're fully supporting you to do that. Fellow board members, Dr. Bonebreak.
Yes.
Jada, how did you get shot out of this cannon? You've been going and you've got goals. Was there an inspiration?
So ever since I was young, I've always done many sports. I always wanted to be an active child. And cheer was always the sport that really made me feel free. It made me feel like I could be myself. And I have been through so many amazing gyms, and I wanted to bring that to other athletes. I wanted to create a safe place for athletes to grow and to learn what it meant to be a cheerleader and to find pride in the sport. And I told my mom, and I said, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life. Let's get started.
Right. Anyone else? Mrs. Bowling.
Hi.
Hello.
It's been so much fun watching you the last 4 years cheerleading and being a leader on that squad and having the courage to get out there each time. So are you going on a scholarship to Ottawa?
Yes, ma'am. I have been offered a $23,000 per year scholarship from Ottawa.
Proud of you.
Is,
Thank
is this with your cheerleading as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. That is so, congratulations on that. That's going to be so helpful to your parents. Do you have somebody here you want to introduce that has supported you through the
Yes,
year?
ma'am. Yes, get up here. Come on.
Come on up. Obviously, you did a good job.
Hi. So this is my mother, Terrell Watson. She has been my biggest supporter since the very beginning. I would not be where I am without her.
Oh, all right.
Congratulations on all your success, and Mom, with all your success, look at you go. Thank you so much for allowing us to have her as a student at Highland Park and Eisenhower
Yes, ma'am.
and Ross. So thank you so much. We appreciated her all the way through, and she's obviously going to shine for our district. So good for you, Mom. Thank you.
Mrs. Schmidt.
So I just want to thank you for highlighting cheerleading. I think people underestimate the athleticism and the determination. It takes a lot to get out in front of a huge auditorium full of people and do crazy abnormal things and look excited and happy and like you're not in pain when you're doing a lot of it. So thank you for shining a light on that. My question to you is there an opportunity for you, even as you get your cheer camp training up and going, that maybe you'll come back and help facilitate or coach some of the cheers groups at Topeka Public Schools?
I have definitely thought about becoming the Highland Park High School cheer coach. If they need me, I would be more than happy to help, or even just come in and supervise, or even just be there to help with the other cheerleaders during our summer practices. Get them with stunting. I know at the moment HP doesn't have that much tumbling, so I would love to be able to bring tumbling into Highland Park High School for cheerleading. But yeah. Of course.
All right, Mrs. Stewart Campbell.
Yes, congratulations. We're so, so proud of you.
Thank you.
Wow. My question is, was your experience at TCalc, how has that like shaped your trajectory as what you want to study at Ottawa? Or did you kind of already know before TCalc?
I always knew that I wanted to be in the athletic field and the coaching field of TCalc. At college. TCalc has definitely opened my eyes to the more medical field of it. And I wanted to take the sports class specifically because I wanted to know what I could do if, say, for instance, one of my athletes got hurt. As an athlete, I have been hurt several times, and I know that if I were to see my athlete injured, I would want to have at least the first step of what to do to help them.
Anyone else? All right.
You are exceptional.
You certainly are.
Thank you.
Give her another applause.
Thank you.
All your gifts and your certificate. Thank you. And if you stay around for a few minutes, we're going to take a photo with the board in about 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. All right. Do you want to just continue this since this is Highland Park night on what we are, who we are acknowledging next in terms of our coaches?
If I could have the coaches to the front, please, right over here, because you'll be speaking. So for the second year in the second year in a row, they have both won male and female coach of the year for our league. So if we could give them a round of applause, they are amazing. Did you guys decide who was going first?
First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing us to come up here and receive this, or even not even just receive this, just the acknowledgement, just to take notice of what we're doing and be aware of what we're doing. And those things are important to us. I want to thank Ms. Watson, our amazing administration that we have at Highland Park, Athletic Director Boshner Whitaker, and then obviously I want to thank our board, Dr. Anderson, our amazing district-wide admin that we have within our school district. And then, I want to also make sure I shout out our players. We've got amazing parents. For us to win these types of awards, to be acknowledged as a coach of the year, it's not us alone. I don't shoot no shots. I don't make no layups. I don't play no defense. So for me to be able to stay up here and receive this award, it's my guys and, their families being able to trust us to lead their kids and support them and push them in the right direction. So just want to make sure that they get acknowledged because they had an amazing year and they pushed us forward and, they helped me look a little bit better than what I look on Tuesday and Friday nights.
Just like Coach Mike said, thank you, Ms. Watson, all our admin, the board. Thank you guys for having us. Dr. Anderson for always supporting us, how she does. Like Coach Mike said, my ladies, they were able to be here tonight. Thank you for giving up some of your time. We have a lot going on. We got concerts, soccer, softball games, all kind of stuff going on. So for them to be here, thank you guys for doing that. I love being at Highland Park. I love helping our girls get better. A couple of girls I have here tonight. Second year, first year playing, and they go above and beyond. They make all accolade teams, second team, first team, honorable mention. So just being at Highland Park and helping these girls get better, helping our school get better, it's always a blessing. Like I said, thank you for our parents, always supporting. Our parents are amazing. We need that support, our community support, just for us to keep, excelling and getting to the next level. Trying to go in the state and winning basketball games. So thank you guys.
Can each of these players, can you?
Yes, go ahead and stand up, ladies. Stand up, ladies. I have Pramela Carter. She's a freshman. Our Meadowlark Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, First Team of the Year. We have Kiajane Rice. She's a junior. One of my girls I was just talking about, third year playing. She made honorable mention this year in Meadowlark. Nevaeh, she's a sophomore. She's a blessing to us. She has a bright future. She's going to put a lot of work in for us this summer and excel and go above and beyond for us. My bad, Pramela, one more time. So if you guys don't know Pramela, please turn around and show everybody. So Pramela, she was a freshman for us, a blessing for us. She was the Meadowlark Player of the Year, the Meadowlark Newcomer of the Year, first team, all conference, second team, third team, all state in different categories. Like I said, she's just a freshman, so she has a lot of work to keep going and doing stuff for us, and she's going to be special like they all are. So thank you, guys.
All right, Dad. I want to congratulate you, the Highland Park Running Scots Boys Class 5A State Championship, as well as our women in their second year in a row for our teams. But in addition to that, our coaches of the year, we congratulate you and we celebrate. Now, we know we're a little crowded up here, but stay for just a moment. The board may have a question or two. And gentlemen, we'll end up taking a picture over there. So we'll turn it on over for questions for our board president.
All right. Thank you, all of you. Superstars. You're all superstars. Board members, questions, comments? Mrs. Stewart Campbell.
All right, congratulations. We're so proud of you. For those who don't know, I have a lot of love for Highland Park. As a little girl, I spent a lot of time there because my mom was a teacher at Highland Park. Yeah, 70s. Anyway, I think you all know, but I mean, Highland Park does a lot of great things. But what's going on now with basketball is making kids want to go even more to Highland Park. Those who didn't were like, maybe Highland Park. Oh, I don't want to go to Highland Park. So I have an athlete son at a different high school. And so I find myself around athlete boys sometimes, high school kids. And I've heard them say like, oh yeah, I'm transferred to Highland Park basketball team. Yeah, the coach is there. So anyway, you guys got quite the reputation and you make us all very proud. So congratulations.
Mrs. Bowling.
You're going to be at home on your home court more next year, right? I've missed you. You are hard to find this year. I just want to congratulate you. I've been watching your program for a while and Mr. Williams, you and I go back a ways. And I just wanted to state that This man and his other team coaches know how to make relationships with their kids and empower them to move forward and to get better. And see how he's shaking his head because he knows it. He knows his power. He knows what he's able to do. And we appreciate you doing that for our students. And that young lady behind you, she's got to learn to hold her head up high and strut into the room, it sounds like. Not be so embarrassed. It sounds like you got a lot to be proud of. So you need to strut into the room and be proud, young lady, okay? You got a great future ahead of you. And thank you, coaches, for creating those futures for our students. I know that they get signed in colleges and move forward in their careers. And you just bless our students. I'm sorry, that wasn't a question. I just wanted to brag on you guys. Thank you for letting me do that.
That is totally fair. Mrs. Schmidt.
Yeah, it's not a question, so. At the beginning of the school year, we as board members often get the opportunity to go out the first day of school. And in talking to Miss Watson, one of the things that she is really focused on and is becoming very apparent is the community that Highland Park High School has. And just in that short time there, you know, we go around and we talk to students, and it was very quickly that I identified a little freshman guy that was nervous about his first day of school. And, you know, you could tell that there were groups of kids and he was just kind of this little loner, and my heart always goes out to those guys. And so I walked up to Miss Watson and Michael both and told them, hey, you need to keep an eye out on this one to make sure that he feels included and he's inclusive. And he did, man. He walked right over to him and started having a conversation with him. And it's second nature to our educators and our coaches to make sure that kids feel included and build that relationship where there might be holes otherwise. Maybe they don't have parents at home that do that. Maybe they've never had that in an educator or a coach before. And so that is one way over at Highland Park High School that they are stepping up and they are challenging our district as a whole to come up to this level to make sure that our kids are loved and have relationships with adults in good ways. So kudos to you guys. You make the district look great.
Thank you. I kind of want to piggyback on all three because you are kind of all like the same boat on your comments. That's, you know, me and Rob, we always say when we come up, we're USD 501 kids. We elementary, middle, high school, and taught and worked in the district the whole time. Obviously we coach on different sides together, but we've coached together forever. We were on staff together prior to him taking a job, and for good reason, because he's an amazing coach. But we learned something a long time ago that, you know, winning is the byproduct of doing things a certain kind of way. And so everybody comes out on Tuesdays and Friday nights and gets to enjoy the game. We love that. That's what we want to do that. But what people see on Tuesday and Friday night is just a small glimpse of the totality of what we do on a regular basis. And so really appreciate you guys being mindful of that part of it from a relationship building standpoint, because that's the basis of who we are and what we're trying to do. And, you know, then we're able to, when that stuff gets going, Tuesdays and Friday nights are easy for us. So thank you for acknowledging that, because that's exactly who we're trying to be.
Again, congratulations, and we'll be taking one group photo in a couple minutes. I have to say, as they conclude and get ready to take their seats for a few more minutes, having the power in having our own staff coach in many ways really allows for before and after school. And now your twins are in school. What grade are they now?
First grade.
I remember when his wife was still pregnant and had, before those twins came, I keep putting them in the annual report, and then they went to Shaner. And so not only are they byproducts of staff, but they also send their children to our school. You know our community, both of you all. Thank you for all that you do. You are exceptional. And that comment about that being a byproduct, that's systems. Systems remain and they outlive us. Programs come and go, but systems remain. So thank you for creating a winning system. And ladies, thank you for showing up this evening. Hang around for a few more minutes and then we'll be taking our photo. Let's give them another applause. All right, our next acknowledgement. It is Week of the Young Child, and Mrs. Sharp was just going to share a couple of highlights about our young children because she oversees early childhood. Ms. Sharp, did you want to say a comment or two?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anderson. We are excited to highlight our youngest learners and the educators that work with them each day. The preschools have special activities planned over the next week, and our culminating activity is the Roll and Read. Some of you might be guest readers this year down at Evergy Plaza on Saturday the 13th. So thankful for all of the parent educators and teachers that work so hard every day to meet the needs of our youngest learners. Really proud of the support that we provide to those little kiddos.
So we'll be pushing out a video this evening that'll be highlighting our young children. So you can look forward to seeing that. And we have a preschool in almost every one of our schools. We're one of the few places with an early childhood center for those that are listening, a Head Start Center, and an additional early childhood center at Shaner for families that might not qualify for any of the other centers. So we are blessed because of you, board members. Thank you for that. All right. And secondly, we would like to acknowledge that it is also Assistant Principals Week. And Assistant Principals Month, I stand corrected. When you came in, you may have seen a picture of all of our assistant principals. We know they are the backbone of a school, and we want to acknowledge them as Assistant Principals Month. Throughout the month, we are giving shout outs to our assistant principals. And so we encourage those that are listening online, our board members. Already there are lots of social media pieces, and their principals are celebrating them, but we want to acknowledge them this evening. Now we're going to ask for our para, our newest para to the advisory, Mrs. Summers. Are you here this evening? Oh, she's online. I forgot. I did tell her that she can join on Zoom. She is our newest para, who's our bilingual para at Lowman Hill. Good afternoon. Love it that we just came to you and you were smiling before we even got to you. And so
thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. She's going to read the proclamation and then answer any questions that you have about paraprofessionals. So we'll turn it over to Ms. Summers.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am so honored to share this proclamation with all of you. This is the proclamation of the Topeka Unified School District number 501 Paraprofessional Appreciation Day, April 3rd, 2024. Whereas Topeka Public Schools is home to more than 500 paraprofessionals who provide services in multiple settings within schools, including support for instruction, student activities, and for individual students, as well as numerous other tasks that contribute to educational success. And whereas the support and services provided by paraprofessionals are integral to student achievement, resulting in an even better, more effective learning environment. And whereas Topeka Public Schools is committed to excellence in education and recognizes the important role that paraprofessionals play in ensuring educational success. And now, therefore be it resolved, the Topeka Public Schools Unified School District 501, Topeka, Kansas, thus proclaim April 3rd, 2024 as Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. In appreciation of the dedication and hard work of our paraprofessionals who work to create an educational environment that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minute of the Board of Education meeting April 4, 2024. In witness whereof, we, the staff of Topeka Unified School District number 501, do hereby affix the signature of our superintendent and the official seal of the Board of Education this 4th of April, 2024. It's signed by Kate Taintron, President, Board of Education.
Thank you. And she's one of our approximately 500 paras. Thank you. And I know that the board members may have questions for you, so I'm going to turn it over to our board president.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Any questions? Ms. Summers, thank you for what you do. You're providing valuable services to our students.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Munoz.
I'd love to know, Ms. Summers, what attracted you to this position, doing the work of paraprofessionals, which we know is so important in our schools?
Yes, well, I have experience in this, and then what it attracts me is that I can change lives. Every time that we work with the student, we touch their life. We need to know how to do it. We need to have the experience and also understand what is their needs so we can accommodate our needs to their needs. And that's what it attracts me. I just want they know they learn so much from every person, but I was being attracted ever since I taught in Mexico, and then it's just my inspiration. Every time I see a student changing and learning from us, all of us, then I just love it. It is my priceless reward.
All right. Mrs. Bowley.
I believe I heard you're at Loman Hill. I was wondering what your caseload is.
Well, as a paraprofessional and being bilingual, I help the students to learn in the transition of learning Spanish, in the transition to learn English. So that's what we do. So we help all the students to understand the language better and then therefore be prepared when they get in class and then they don't understand. So we prepare the students to be ready to absorb the language first and therefore later to learn the language is very important. In my case, I also, as EL bilingual paraprofessional, I interpret and translate. Some people says, well, you are translating, but I just learned that interpreting is verbally and translating is in paper. So I do both. And I try to do my job as fast as I can. And I consider myself, capable of doing it. And I help everybody, as much as they need me, I will be there. So that is my role. So not only EL, paraprofessional or teaching the students, and then also translating and interpreting for others.
And Ms. Summers, about how many students, do you have a particular number of students that you are responsible for making sure you serve? How many students would that be?
Yes, last year was 52, and this year we have 57.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Ms. Summers, we appreciate you and all of our paras and our bilingual paras mucho. My question is, what can you talk to some about like the parent outreach that you also do, in addition to all the support for students, the academic support, but I would like for everyone, including myself, to learn more about what you do for the parents.
Yes, and thank you for that question. It's really, really good question. We as EL paraeducators, being bilingual is a very unique skill that we have. And then so all the parents, first of all, is the students, and then it is the teachers. And every other para that is not bilingual, they rely on us as a being EL bilingual to interact with the students and then to interact with the parents. So personal, I have parents that they are not available during the weekdays, and then so they call me during weekend or after hours, and then so I had to translate and interpret for them too, because sometimes they come with paper, let's say immunizations, and they come from a different countries. So there is the barrier of the language, and then they don't understand, let's say the nurse doesn't understand what is the immunization in Spanish. So I had to translate in paper and then interpret too about what the student needs or what they require. So the parents play a big role in this communication with the EL bilingual paras, because they don't know the language. And then sometimes if we are not there for them, then the school cannot really, let's say, perform with without someone that is bilingual because there is no way that they can communicate. So in my role, I've been pulled from different places, from the nurse, from the teachers, from other paras, from the principal, and even from the parents all day long. That's what we do. So now that we are testing, of course, they having a little hard time because they cannot pull me out of the classroom, do the testing. So it's very important that we can communicate with them and say, we are testing, I'm sorry, we can answer the phone right now, but when we are available, you can call me and I can answer all of your questions.
Well, thank you so much. I know everything you and all our parents do is extremely important for our students' success. So muchísimas gracias.
Gracias.
All right, Dr. Anderson, I think we'll turn it back over to you.
That concludes our highlights. Thank you again, Ms. Summer. She is one of our 17 EL bilingual paras. We are so pleased that you are on the advisory, and we're looking forward to the great things that are coming out of the advisory. At this time, President, if we can take 5 minutes to take photos of those that are with us, that would be wonderful. And Ms. Summers, I didn't forget you on your gift card. I will be delivering that on Friday. Thank you again.
Steal their sheet.
All righty. So the next item on our agenda is public communications. And we have a number of individuals who have requested to address the board this evening. So the first person on the list is Miss Debbie Vole. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing. Okay.
I really appreciate you calling.
You're welcome. How would you like your name to be pronounced?
It's Voley.
Voley. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Voley. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as a board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Debbie Voley. My address is 1830 Southwest Fillmore here in Topeka, 04 zip code. I'm here today kind of on a two-part situation. I am a substitute for 501. I have been for 8.5 years. I love my job. I love working with the children. I love working with the employees. However, on March 29th, we had the day out of school, and all of us received an email that all staff would be paid. And I do have copies of that if you need it. Anyway, it says it has been designated a paid day off for all staff members. When I called to find out what we needed to do to make sure we got paid, I was told substitutes were not going to be paid. I am a building sub, so I'm there Monday through Friday. I may cover a class for a teacher. I may cover for GEIs and IEPs. I'm flexible. I'm like a rubber band. Finally. But more importantly is we have subs that are in there as long-term teachers for filling your vacancies. I've done it for the last 4 years. And these people deserve to be paid. They love those kids just as much as any teacher would. And they may not have as much education, but they're just as worthy to be paid for that day. So I guess my main thing here is not necessarily for myself to be paid, but for all these long-term subs to be paid. That's only fair. And I would ask that you guys look into this. I have sent emails to all the administration. I've not got a reply yet. But I really think that's something that needs to be designated. The other part of this is that in the 8.5 years I've worked here, I started at $100 a day. There was, your second year, you get a $5 raise. So I made $135 a day. There was, or $105 a day. Then there was the raise all across the board for all of everybody. And subs got a $30 raise. So we make $135. I make $135 a day. As a long-term sub, I make $145 a day. But 8.5 years and only one raise, we're just as important to 501 as any other employee is. And I just think that we really need to look at this and see what we can do, because like I said, you've got them in there as teachers. And they're teaching all grades in elementary. There's some in the middle and high school as well, because I turned down one in middle school. But it's just something I really wish you guys would look at.
Thank you, Ms. Foley.
Mhm.
Okay, the next person on the list, Matthew Hall. Mr. Hall, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you. You may begin, sir.
Thank you, President Tatum and fellow board members. My name is Matt Hall, 2421 Harvard Road. I'm a secretary treasurer for Teamsters Local 696 based here in Topeka, Kansas. At this point, we've spoken to many of y'all, and we've spoke to some of you all face to face about this issue. The majority of employees for the transportation department, drivers and paraprofessionals at USD 501 have signed cards in order to form their union with Teamsters Local 696. We are here tonight to ask the board to stop standing in these workers' way and to allow these workers to form their union that they choose. We're asking the board to opt in the PERB and to recognize this their union via card check. The freedom of association and the right for collective bargaining is a fundamental human right recognized internationally. And it's a right many workers in this community and district currently enjoy. Teachers at 501 have a union. Shawnee County workers have a union. City of Topeka workers have a union. State of Kansas workers have a union. A fair number of them are with the Teamsters local. Many of the drivers for North America Central that the paras ride with have a union contract with Teamsters Local 696 as well. Workers throughout the private sector in Topeka have union contracts. Evergy, Goodyear, Frito-Lay. In fact, U.S. News and World Report has reported that Topeka has the 6th highest rate of unionization for any city in the United States. Workers' rights are at Topeka value. Unions are at Topeka value, and Topeka is a union town. The union contract not only benefits workers, but it also benefits a school district, the community, and students. Unions improve health and safety standards at workplaces. They help provide stability at workplaces. They give conflict resolution to workers, both sides at workplaces. Tonight, you're going to hear from some of your employees and about why they have reached out to the Teamsters to form their union with the Teamsters. We implore you to please hear them out and listen to them. I implore you to make the right decision as well in this matter and to stop standing in these workers' way and opt in the PERB. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, the next person who is signed up to address the board, Jaleesa Williams. Ms. Williams, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you, and you may begin.
Okay, my name is Jaleesa Williams. My address is 2353 Southeast Bellevue Avenue, Apartment D, Topeka, Kansas, 66605. Short and sweet, just, I'm a Topeka girl. I'm from a union family. My father's been at Goodyear for 31 years. My sister's been at Frito-Lay for 8. Union is something that I know. All I'm asking is that you all use your power to give us a voice to be heard. Let Teamsters be our voice to amplify us. It's short and sweet. That's all we're asking. You guys have the power to let us be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to address the board this evening, Mrs. Tamika James. Mrs. James, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you guys so much. My name is Tamika James, address 3726 Southeast Illinois Avenue in Topeka, Kansas, 66609. As I said, I am Tamika James. I am an employee. I am a bus payer in the transportation department. I have been in the transportation department for 16 years. I am here speaking on behalf of myself and my coworkers. We are asking for a vote for you to vote to opt into PERB, to allow us, the transportation department, to become unionized like the certified employees of 501. We want better pay for all of the hard work and care that our parents and drivers put into making sure each child is safely traveled home and to school. With all of the training and education that comes with being a para and driver for USD 501, 1071 for paras as a starting rate. Bus drivers 18 an hour and van drivers only start at 1240. These wages are not sensible. In my opinion, this is why we can't retain staff. the staff we need. As I speak, we are 15 pairs short in our department. And those are 15 routes that go without every day without a para. That requires a para for that route. Since I've been in the district for almost 16 years, since 2008, we've had at least 23 paras, 2 in which were always cover paras. We were never understaffed. I feel like due to the lack of leadership, being inconsistent, and unpleasant work environment, poor communication, and unfair pay, we can't seem to keep bus paras or drivers. So the desire to unionize is our voices can be amplified, feelings validated, and accountability from those in charge be made, along with some form of appreciation. We need consistency, stability, and a strong foundation. Now, no disrespect to KNEA because it has come up, or anyone that doesn't understand our request, but we are asking for a union contract. And we feel like Teamster 696 is the best fit for our department. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on our agenda is business by consent. So I'm looking for a motion for business by consent.
I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Do we have a second for that motion? Mr. Munoz seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote. All right, thank you so much. That takes us to superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. This evening, as we pull up this PowerPoint, Mrs. Sharp and Dr. Kipp will be sharing a little information about the area for human resources, highly effective staff. And it's a staffing update in part prepared by Brett Church. Dr. Church has given us this report today, given them training as well. You may recall, for those that are tuning in for the first time, that last board meeting, he came and shared a proposal to work with us. And in March and April, he was going to share our data. And then in April, he will next month have focus groups with teachers. And then moving from those focus groups, he will then be asking to connect with the board in the area of, and I'm sorry, it is April. In April, he's going to be having the focus groups in May. And then in June, I asked the board to identify when your June retreat might be, and if it's okay to send forward some proposed dates and you determine what those are. Brett Church would like to facilitate that process, or is willing to facilitate that process using the data he's gained and the focus group information. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kipp to start, and with those first couple of slides, and Ms. Sharp will take it from there. Dr. Kipp.
Good evening. I think it's important to understand, Dr. Church kind of pointed out and highlighted some key vocabulary, and it's pretty salient to this whole study that, without diving into the mechanics of statistics and all that, it's important to know that this study is a very robust one. When you see a 99% confidence level, I mean, that's really only a 1% margin of error for all these results. So it speaks to the credibility, the power, the reliability of these results. And as we go through, just keep that in the back of your mind that this is a very robust study. It left no stone unturned on all this. So this slide in particular, it's kind of hard to read from there, but basically it summarizes what they call drivers that affect engagement and retention. And so what Dr. Church did, just to reiterate, he did a statewide study of it, but he also does it for each individual district because there may be some things idiosyncratic to our district that kind of get lost in the wash at the state level. Ms. Sharp, were you doing over the matrix?
Yes.
I'll take it.
So this slide, he's really outlining what are the drivers, what are the factors that are truly influencing whether teachers are staying in the profession and if they're engaged in their work or not, and prioritizing based upon the data from our staff. So to me, you're going to see really the same information in a couple of different formats. So I want to move on from this slide because I think it's easier to understand when you move on to this slide. So notice at the top, this is our 2021 data. So our staff took this survey back then, and you can quickly look at the very last column indicates whether or not that factor is a driver of engagement or retention. So in the very last column, that's what the E and the R stands for, meaning this is a factor that we really need to pay attention to. And the second column over, you can see that is what our teachers rated each one of those factors. So low, high, and moderate. So up at the very top, you can see, for instance, the vision and leadership of the board in 21 was a low satisfaction according to staff. And in 21, their data had indicated that was a driver of staff engagement and staff retention. The three below that, staff had rated high satisfaction, and you can see that all three of those are drivers of staff being engaged with their work. So relationship with principal, relationship with colleagues, and opportunity to work in a diverse student population.
We're going to stop for just a moment as Dr. Kipp explains the driver component of this piece in terms of when something is ranked high or low or medium, but isn't a driver. How is that possible?
Yeah, and it's illustrated here. You'll see a lot of low satisfaction, but it's really not affecting the engagement or retention. So what that means was there was some data in the survey that indicated low satisfaction, but it didn't meet the threshold of significance. It didn't quite meet, some people agreed that we're not really satisfied with the insurance rates, but it wasn't enough to be significantly the voice of the entire group. So what they're doing here is just being transparent that there were some low satisfaction items, but just not significant enough to warrant impact on engagement or retention.
I pose a question because a board member posed a question to us. How can something be low but not be a driver? So there is a particular number of, you have to have this many people in order to be a driver. And if it didn't meet that number, then it didn't become a driver. We're going to ask if there are questions so far before Ms. Sharp continues. Dr. Von Brake?
If it's low there must have been numbers that were higher, and they would reflect the opposite. So wouldn't that be a driver? So in the low one, your district's attention and approach to supporting your mental and emotional health. Does that mean there was a high attention to their emotional health? Because you didn't get a majority.
And it didn't mean it didn't necessarily get a majority. And as Dr. Church intends to come to a future meeting as he's starting those focus groups, it could be, for example, and I'm just making up numbers, it could have been that 55% said something, but perhaps 70% was the yield to be a driver. So what he's really looking at is what are the things that are predictive of if a person's going to remain, if you're going to retain a person. And I made those numbers up, so he may say very different numbers, but he did share it's a mathematical formula. He has the ability with a great degree of accuracy to predict what's going to impact retention and engagement. And while many people may say, we don't like this area or this area is of concern, and perhaps even the majority, it may not rise to whatever the mathematical number that he has set in order to be a driver and to be something that will determine retention. Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah. If you had 100 people surveyed and 51% said we're not satisfied, Is that enough that's a majority, but is it enough to meet the threshold to say it has an impact? Just because it's mathematically higher than, the minority, it doesn't mean that it's going to have an impact on retention or engagement.
But it didn't have an impact on 51 of the 100?
Well, to some degree it does. Yeah. I mean, it's not to negate the voices that did acknowledge that, but statistically, when you're looking at the whole sample, it didn't have a statistical impact.
So are there more important things to look at than that section?
It's a prioritizing. You're correct that you say, man, what if 80 things are things that are low? Well, we have to start somewhere. So he's helping us and you prioritize what are the highest level of things that people have concerns about. So she gets to 2023, you may see multiple things that are low, but perhaps some areas rise to the very top. So if we're going to invest and support certain areas, those may be some areas you want to pay attention to. Here's what he shared in their training today as I sat in and listened, is that things, first of all, that are low, you still want to be aware of all of them. And you may want to say, what are some things we're going to continue to do to address those areas? But you want to make sure that you address the areas that are your E's and R's. The other thing he said was you want to pay attention to your high areas. So we can't ignore those. What do people really love? So one of the areas was the relationship with their principal. They were just talking about that here a few minutes ago. That's something we want to make sure we keep doing well, that we pay attention to, that we make sure that that is supported. So he's sharing that in the training, we really should look at all of these areas and have an awareness, but he's going to help you prioritize with where to start.
And just to piggyback on that, if you see on the right column, there's not a lot of R's and E's. So that's actually a good thing, because if this list of 40 things, where do we even begin? So to have just a small number makes it manageable and digestible to target. For instance, our diversity in our district was a huge retention and engagement factor, high satisfaction. A lot of our teachers enjoy working in a district of diverse population. So how do we leverage that? And I think Ms. Sharp's going to kind of touch on that. What are our action steps after we look at this data?
Next slide.
So this is the same exact format, but it is the 2023 data. So again, you can see the highest satisfaction at the top. Again, those relationships, principal and colleague, location of the district, and opportunity to work with diverse student population. You can see there are a few driver areas where we had moderate or low satisfaction around student discipline and challenging behaviors, and the size of the district that you work in. So I really think that this next slide takes this big long list and makes it actionable. So he really compiled what are the key experience factors over in that first column. What was the level of satisfaction in both 21 and 23? Was it a driver in 21 or 23? And then the recommended action. And this is honestly the most important column of where should we prioritize and put our efforts. And you can see the very bottom one around the support your school and district has in place to handle challenging student behaviors. It was low satisfaction both years, not a driver in 21, but a retention driver in 23. And so their recommendation is to evaluate what's happening in that area, invest in that area, and make changes in that area. So I'll let you kind of just read through the different recommended actions in that last column.
As you look through those, for those that are listening online, so the areas that we need to maintain and leverage, relationship with your principal, relationship with colleagues, and diversity. So relationships and diversity are things that we need to continue to maintain. And those all are reasons why people either come to us and stay with us. So for her recruitment purposes, that will be areas that they make sure they begin to highlight even more so, the diversity, the relationships, maybe bringing principals on recruitment fairs. Those are things that they should continue to do. The next three things that we'll mention that are not drivers, which she shared, was The approach to mental health, as well as the social emotional the school or district has in place, the support your school or district has in place to meet social emotional needs. That in 2023 was not a driver, but he's suggesting that we should prioritize monitoring that because it was a driver just the year or two before when they had this survey. And we know social emotional health feeds into discipline and everything else. And so that is an area to be monitored. Both are low. So people have concern in that area. So social emotional mental health is an area of concern. The final three items are drivers. They all are drivers for engagement or retention. So principal support for challenging student behaviors. The location of the district in which you teach was an engagement driver. The size of the district in which you teach, and then the support for your school district has in place to handle challenging student behaviors. So we see student behaviors twice as areas of opportunity when it comes to things we should, he said, invest in, evaluate, and or begin to assess and do some things differently. We anticipate he will be giving us some action steps that we should also be taking in these various areas. But without the communication with staff, he gave an example at his last time here, was that an individual can say one thing and we think they mean something, but then when we meet with them, they may say it's discipline, but it's discipline in this area. Or it's, he shared as the example with us, it's discipline because I don't like the way my school handles this. And what he shared is sometimes the school is doing it in the way the handbook says, but the handbook was not properly shared with the principal, with the teachers. So he shared why, the focus groups are an important component of understanding any survey data as it relates to this space for him. So those focus groups next month, he will be having those, and then he's going to be reporting out to you all, ideally at a retreat, what he learned from the focus groups and with this, and he will have a list of recommendations that he suggests that we implement in the immediate future. We're going to turn this back over to Ms. Sharp if there are other items that you want to conclude on. And are there questions that you have as we go back? She has this same information in another format. If you like to see information in a different way other than a graph, he put it in another format and highlighted for you what are the high satisfaction areas and what are the low satisfaction areas. And he noted there are several high satisfaction areas that he told us we have to keep paying attention to. If we stop doing them, then the data in 2 years might be different. So we can't say, done that. We have to continue to invest in those. But the low satisfaction areas are the same that I just shared with you, but they're just in a different format for you. We're going to open this up for questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. Dr. Kipp, I think maybe this is a little more directed at your wheelhouse. And it's not a criticism, it's an observation that provides for an interesting challenge. With both the indicators listed in the highest satisfaction for 2021 and 2023, one of the common threads that jumps out at me as I look over those is they all contain the words either you or yours. So I'm wondering, in political science, there's a concept called the paradox of distance, and it's the idea that your elected officials that you see, city council members, school board members, often people that you have the ability to engage in. Maybe they come and they knock on your house door. They're doing fine. But it's all those other guys in Washington, D.C. that you know nothing about. They're the ones that are messing everything up. And I'm wondering if maybe that's something that we see here. My immediate working environment and the administrators that I interact with and the peers and students that I interact with all the time are great. But it's everybody else outside of that concentric circle around me that is causing some of the issues. And that's, as I look through this, that's where I see a lot of the lowest satisfaction with things outside of the normal everyday experience that a lot of our employees have. What do you make of that? And how do you think that impacts how we And Dr. Anderson, for you also, how would those things really kind of impact how we approach these issues moving forward?
Well, personally, I think the focus groups are going to add context to what you're describing and fill in some of those gaps, whether it is, like you said, the immediacy of relationships, or if it is something outside. The way these questions are phrased, I think, is directly from the survey. It does use the words you and to try to make it more of a personalized focus, I think. I assume that was his approach, but I'll yield to him during your retreat to kind of analyze how he constructed it. But yeah, I think the focus groups are just definitely going to enhance and tweak and give a greater understanding to some of these. So
to your point, the areas that you just mentioned, society's view of teaching. I mean, when we talk about the legislature and what just happened yesterday with and today for special education, I mean, that's going to have an impact about what you think about the profession. He shared with us in training, and Ms. Sharp or Dr. Kipp, please correct me if I misstate this. He shared with us in training that this isn't necessarily our school or school district. It can be, why do I leave the teaching profession or stay? In addition to, in terms of how a person is processing it, again, why the conversation is helpful. The other piece, if you look at this in terms of getting a substitute, so I suspect he's working closely and has already met with G.A. Bowie regarding the work with human resources. I suspect he's going to share some items related to that. And that piece of getting staff, financial incentives, how we're funding certain things within the district as it relates to recruitment. Do people feel they're paid enough? Even though we pay more than everyone else in the county. I mean, those are areas that were low, some of those. So just as you mentioned, those are things outside the realm of my classroom and my school. But those are broader things, some of which we may not have a direct impact, but we can acknowledge and highlight the teachers and staff we have here, but they may still feel society's view isn't great. So to your point, there are, I think, some limitations of what we can do, but I'm excited about Brett Church working with districts across the state because he's going to give us recommendations of what he thinks we should do. We have acquired him to also do the retreat for human resources. So a lot of what you're going to read is about relationships, what people like about their school. And as we do that, he is helping us with the restructuring we've done with relationships as well as services in human resources. And we anticipate we'll see some adjusted drivers perhaps in the next year or two by having him closely work with us along with KSB and USA. We did have him send this to Dr. Weisman earlier this morning, so that right after our retreat, she got a chance to receive it, and Bowie has a chance to receive it as well, as did KSDE. So we all are working in concert with training. Does that somewhat answer? But I agree, some of these things are outside of our control.
Yeah, food for thought, going forward more than anything. Mrs. Bowling.
I'm hoping somebody can help me better understand disengagement and exactly what they're talking about as our teaching staff, talking about teachers that have disengagement. What is that meaning in the educational piece of this? Are they coming and not working? Are they not prepared? What is the disengagement explanation? I keep trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm not sure I know what it really is.
Well, and you both went to the summit, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Sharp and Dr. Kipp as they went to the summit and saw those slides when you talk about what does disengagement mean for a teacher?
Yeah, I think it is buy-in, belief, and again, I didn't write all of this, and but that's what I take it as is just feeling invested and buy-in and belief in what they're doing.
Do you assume that it's buy-in and belief of what their district is asking them or their own personal profession?
I think that's going to be the focus groups, because that was my question as well. Some of that's going to come out in the focus group.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, go right ahead, Ms. Sharp.
You spoke to this just a little earlier, Dr. Anderson. I had in our conversation this morning, I had made a statement about leaving the district and he was like, this is more likely to leave the profession than necessarily the district.
And I think he even said he would rather have a teacher leave our district than leave the profession in any case. But that disengagement, I think it is in the eye of the beholder to some degree. You know, it's maybe a teacher just going through the motions, just not feeling that passion.
That's what I was wondering it's got kind of a huge description. So I'll be interested to hear what Dr. Church has to say about that explanation. Thank you. Because it just seems so broad. I don't know, you know, how he's figuring that out, that disengagement piece.
Well, one of the things I'd like to offer is that in May, as he's starting the focus groups, to have him come back to say, how is it going so far? As well as what are questions that may have surfaced between now and then. We have placed all of the surveys, we'll place this PowerPoint on our webpage. It's under the board link. It's also under human resources. So people can look through these spaces, but I'm excited about the focus group starting up in May, right after testing concludes.
Hey, Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
I just found my notes from the summit when we went that day. In the engagement index, I wrote down, am I connected? Am I growing? Am I heard? And am I motivated?
Okay. Okay. Dr. Schumacher.
Yeah, I have a email that Dr. New sent to me June 5th, 2023 with the 2022 Kansas Educator Engagement Retention Survey results. And in the results for the state, they do go into what the engagement profile, and it has definitions for actively disengaged. So there's 5 levels: actively engaged, engaged, moderately engaged, disengaged, and actively disengaged. And actively disengaged, it defines it likely dissatisfied with current educator experience and work environment, may tend to withdraw from work and possibly spreads negativity across their school/district. And then disengaged is likely to be negatively impact the learning environment and is likely delivering well below their potential and capability. So there's some specifics, and I can forward that as well.
Anyone else?
All right, well, if there are no other questions for us, then that really concludes the work that we're going to be doing with Dr. Church. You'll hear from him again in May. He'll start his focus groups. He'd like to get a date for retreat, if you all have a end of June retreat, so he can bring all of that data back as well at that time. And that does conclude our report for the recruitment and retention. Unless Ms. Sharp, is there anything else that you need to make mention of regarding recruitment and retention for the human resources end?
No, other than our team's been meeting every Monday, really, I think, connecting well and making some forward progress.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda then is discussion items. Oh, that's right. I skipped over that one. Okay, sorry.
Jim Edwards is for the
Jim
legislative update. He's going to come at the next meeting. And as you know from today and the emails from today, that special education is the hot topic right now. But he will be coming with a full report. He's been giving a number of updates to the legislative advocacy group. He'll continue to do that, and we look forward to his report next month.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder on that. Okay, so then discussion items is the next item on our agenda. Okay, I thought so. Student instructional materials fees 2024 to 2025 proposed changes.
Yes, I know Mr. Minky is here if he'd like to add any comments, but in your board docs, you'll see some increase in fees. Some of those fees have not changed for many years and they're lower than what they would be anywhere else. And I'm going to turn this over, Mr. Minky. Oh, you're right behind me. I'll turn it over to him to share perhaps why some of the increases and to give some context as they answer and ask any questions they may have.
Well, I think, Dr. Anderson, thank you, let us off right on the mark. We haven't reviewed these for 8 or 9 years. And the interesting thing, you know, I used skyrocketed in my summary, the student material from the textbook manufacturers or the student material manufacturers. If you do any research, you look at the cost of things, and this, what I'm looking at right now, 1978 through 2013, consumer price index 250% in that same time period. New homes 325%. Medical costs, right? All these things we understand, 575%. Student textbook materials for K-12 public schools, 812%. The cost of these materials just doesn't seem to slow down. And then we kind of went through that period of COVID where we, you know, just forgave a lot of student fees, didn't charge student fees. And I think the responsible thing to do administratively at this point for future students, future years, is to bump these up a little bit. When you look at the materials we have on tonight's agenda, the first column to what our 23-24 actual is just adding $1 to cover the cost if you pay for your students' materials rental charges online. That is simply $1 in most instances would just cover the 3 to 4% that the credit card company charges the district. We're just trying to cover that cost. But we would really like your approval for 24-25 in that proposed column. And that is capturing the transaction costs from our credit card friends, as well as adding $10, just a uniform $10 to our standard and our minimum student material fees, as well as our technology fee. That's what we're recommending. Again, trying to look forward in future years to help cover some of the costs of new adoptions. You know, this year's adoption was close to $1.8 million. We might be lucky to crack $200,000 in fee collections this year. So certainly it isn't something, right, we're utilizing to support wholly our student materials costs, but it's something that I think it would behoove us as a district to look at and probably bump these up this year.
So you have some time to look at the proposed, and then we'll be coming back at the next board meeting to ask you to take action. Am I correct in that, Mr. Meeky?
That would be correct.
We've got some questions from the board on that for you, Mr. Meeky.
Yeah.
I think I saw Mr. Munoz first.
My question is just very simple. When was the last time that we raised fees? 2015, I believe. 16? Okay. 2016. And we had a 3-tiered system then, which was even a bigger mess. And we narrowed it right to that 2 fee, that minimum. If you hit the reduced, we had a reduced, a free, and a standard. We wiped out the reduced rate. We just combined into a minimum and a standard. But it's been 2016 since we've done anything with fees. And the thing is really, we haven't adjusted fees for over 10 years because we didn't do anything with the fees in 2016 when we just eliminated one of the fee structures.
How much did they go up in 2015, 16?
They didn't go up at all in 2015.
So the previous time you raised them, how much percent did they go up?
I'd have to look at that, Dr. Bonedrake.
I was wondering if maybe we should do half that this year and half again in a year.
We could
because they're saying you doubled my fees.
Yeah, you might be right. I would suspect, but I'll look at that. I doubt the $10 across the board is close percentage wise to probably what we did.
It's gonna hurt.
Years ago.
It's gonna hurt families that have multiple kids in school. So yeah, there's probably gonna be some sticker shock next year. And it's all because we haven't raised fees for so many years. So I think what
Yeah.
Dr. Bonebrake raises is a valid suggestion. Dr. Schumacher, go ahead.
This is probably more ignorance. Because you'd referenced, and when we think of fees, we think of textbooks, but my kids don't come home with textbooks. And so can you elaborate a little bit, just for those that maybe are listening, what these fees actually
Right. I mean,
are meant for?
student material fees, a lot of classrooms, we have classroom sets, right? Kids don't take them home. Probably our secondary kids do more than our elementary kids. They have classroom sets. The other learning materials, the math materials, workbooks, mini manipulatives, just really a plethora of materials in the adopted materials. And yeah, maybe we don't have a book bag full of math books in third grade, but I promise you there are materials in the classroom sets that we are providing. Yep.
Anyone else? Mrs. Stewart Campbell.
The lock fee, is that for the locker?
That's a secondary fee. Many of our middle and high schools have a lock fee,
Okay.
and it's, yeah. And that stays at the
I'd be
school,
curious.
IDs and lock fees for their
Yeah.
lockers.
I don't know how much lockers are used these days. My kids are just bringing everything in their backpack to every class. I'm like, well,
Right.
use the darn locker.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe they're weird, but
Some do, some don't. You know, and that's not, I mean, that one is an optional, right? If you choose to use your locker, and I know Ethan was at Topeka High 10 years ago, and because of the 3 floors, you know, it was a hiking trip to go back to that locker. I think that most of them that's where they keep their snack
Does anyone know,
locked up.
is the lock fee optional? I didn't think that was an optional fee.
I didn't know that. I thought if you used a lock, you paid for the lock fee, but that could be not true too. I could check with our schools on that.
So I've heard 3 questions so far. One is about the lock fee. One is regarding should we and could we separate this over the course of a 2-year piece in terms of phasing in the increases. And I believe the third question was really what date and which increases occurred, which we believe it was 10 years ago, although in 2016, we didn't make any increases. So what was the actual date for the increase and how much was that increase? Those are really 4 questions. So on Friday, I'll add those answers to those questions. So you'll have that as you reflect over these next 2 weeks. And it sounds like there might be more questions.
Mrs. Bowley.
So 5 questions. I was just wondering if you have a large family, do we have some kind of discount on a large family, or are they having to pay those fees for 6 kids in their family?
Yeah, we don't have a tiered structure for multiple student families.
Okay,
But we do have payment plans, right?
yes.
I'm sorry?
But we do have payment plans.
You know,
so
we do, typically, for families, we try to collect it in 3 months, three separate payments. We offer that. Yep. And just to clarify, the locker fees are a school thing. We don't do that in my office. That's a school thing.
Don't bring the money to you.
No, they don't bring the money to me. I'm not proposing raising locker fees. Nobody send me an email or a text message about locker fees that is listening to this, because not my thing.
Anyone else? Okay.
well, I
Oh,
just,
Go ahead.
I thought Dr. Boombrick had also a very valid suggestion of maybe, of the sticker shock, of doubling it, which it needs to happen, but maybe it would be more palatable if it were half next year and then the other half the next year. Just kind of segmenting it. Anyway, I just thought that was a good idea.
Sure, we could look at that. We could rebuild the table with kind of a 2-year implementation. Would you like to see that?
I think it would be beneficial for us to look at that, even if we decide that's not the direction to go in and we want to use this one that you've presented to us, it'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good to compare and see what the options are.
Maybe invite some more discussion then, and so.
Sure.
Some more
Yep.
options, but
And a dollar summary perhaps, because 12,000 students, and we can multiply $10 easily, but just add it up.
I can give you a summary, but please don't assume that we're going to collect 100%. Okay? That will be not a great assumption. If I gave you the current collection rate, it would be about 15 or 20%.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
So,
really? Wow.
you know, coming through COVID again, when we waived fees and then didn't charge them for 3 years, you know, you kind of condition folks, and we got to simply reverse course. It is just, or we need to not buy new materials. We're going to get to that point.
Ms. Schmidt.
So I think regardless of what we choose, there needs to be some communication and education around the changes just for parents.
Sure.
You know, just like open enrollment, we got to start telling people in April, May, hey, we really need you to do that early enrollment piece because we're counting on that. I think we really need to start, regardless of how we choose. Obviously, we're going to have to increase it somehow, but we need to communicate, get in front of it with parents and let them know why and be as transparent
Yeah,
as we can.
and I think it may be interesting for you to look at kind of where we're at with the other Shawnee County school districts with fees too. Might be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ours seem low compared to some of the county schools.
But I don't think we ought to tell them we only collect 15 to 20%.
No.
I don't think that'll encourage many to pay.
Which makes me wonder, is there any like, not recourse, that sounds punitive, but like what happens for those who don't pay for whatever reason?
Yeah, prior to COVID, we handled those with a couple different things. We certainly offer a payment plan, right? Understand and work with folks as really hard as we can. But then at one point, right, after the 3 payment cycle has exhausted itself, mid-year, January, February, we would turn those folks over to Zimmerman and Zimmerman for collections. And in a manner, right, that's not going to ruin your credit score. But again, just turning that out to, they're a law firm, just an outside agency. They're not a collection agency. They're a law firm to try to collect some of those fees. About 30%, 35%. I mean, you know, it's hard work.
So in the district, who is the lucky one before it gets turned over to Zimmerman and Zimmerman, who gets to remind these families of their balance?
Yeah, it's a real combined effort with a couple people, Mary Peter specifically in my office, one of my accountants. Mr. Gowan's team helps with that. Karen Klein is heavily involved with that, with identifying, building the letter templates, you know, so that we accurately send the letter to the right family with the right amount, you know. So there's some work involved in that. It's a combined effort between the business office and IT, because, right, there's 2 different systems working there, the business office and our student information system. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Schmidt.
So random rabbit hole, just a thought though. Do we offer like staff members that have students going that would feel like it's a burden? Do we offer to take it out of their paychecks? No.
That's
It was just,
nothing
yeah,
we've
random.
ever considered.
By law, we're required to pay them. I know that's what you're about to say. So that's one reason why we don't do that, correct?
Well, no, under Kansas law, there is, Mr. Menke, correct me if I'm wrong, you offer a free and reduced lunch fee, correct? That's what, when we discussed what the minimum was.
That's the minimum, yeah.
That there is a free and reduced lunch fee. Also, in Kansas law, there's a statute that basically says if a parent submits in writing a request to waive the fees, and the board district finds it meritorious, then the waiver shall be granted. So there are two other options to be aware of when the board determines what the new fee will be, if any.
And we do that, right? At the principal's discretion, and they will contact my office. And that's really not something that we, right, have a lot of debate. If the principal shares that that's probably necessary, I'll sign off on it.
Mr. Mickey, how common is that?
With certain populations, it's fairly common. I mean, if
Interesting.
you have some refugees that, that's something that we're very understandable and agreeable to wiping away those fees.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I have more than 5 questions. So we will have a list of questions. And so,
Like
and
I
then,
should have like a grim reaper or something. I feel awful, but at some point, somebody's got to stand up here and say, listen, folks, student materials went up 800%. There's 5 big companies, there's not 500 companies to buy this from. So when they set the price of a high school algebra textbook, yeah.
absolutely.
This is where we've been for 10 years. And this is where the textbook materials costs have gone. And so we've got to, we're in a business.
Yeah, and we are. I mean, and really pre-COVID, right? I've shared this. We were, an average year collecting around $600,000, and that's helpful. And again, I don't want to blame everything on COVID, right? That's an easy thing to do, but it did happen. And we did make adjustments, and the board made adjustments, and we waived fees, and we didn't assess fees for 2 years. I think we did the right thing. I feel that strongly. It's just the tough news now is that we got to reverse course and start that process again, and being a lot more active in collecting our fees. That's what I'm asking.
So we'll have those list of questions answered, as well as give a tiered system of communication. So whether you're a parent that reads the newsletter, looks at a webpage, or just picks your child up from school, we have multiple ways now this year to share that before next year. And we'll add that again on Friday. Those are all the things that we have this evening. Unless there are other questions on the fee end, we'll be bringing that back again at the next meeting. I would be remiss, as we are closing out our end, if I did not mention that in the consent agenda, you approved the end of year resignation for Mr. Gowan, who has been exceptional in traveling here all the way from St. Louis for many years. And we thank him for his tremendous leadership, and his wife and his daughter. He brought the whole family here traveling. You all may not have known that. Was working in special education in an area that is a shortage area. So as you transition back home to St. Louis, where you've been driving from, we just thank you for your leadership in the district. We know you're going to be here to the end of June, but this evening is when that was approved. And just want to thank you for all that you've done, and welcome in our new staff member, but most importantly, thank you for all that you've done for the district.
That's right. All right, everyone, we are moving on to close this particular meeting out, and it's time for board member comments. And I want to say, as we go into board member comments, for our next meeting in April on the 17th, 18th, we will have more opportunity to kind of maybe talk about and delve into some issues that we haven't had a chance to touch on because the past several board meetings have been so crammed full of stuff. We'll have a bit of a lighter load next meeting. So if there are issues that you want to see discussed, things that you've thought about or that we've maybe touched on but haven't had a chance to really dig into, that would be a good time to raise those issues. And feel free to make that a part of your report out this evening. So we'll start with Dr. Bonebrake.
depressed enough anyway. Our survey by a company, the anagram EPIC, stands for every process is complicated. So I've not had any committees meet since the last meeting. I will unfortunately not be able to attend the next meeting. I get my coronary or I get eye surgery and I have to be on my back for 5 days.
Oh,
It's gonna be fun.
I thought you were gonna be overseas or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I could. No, it's not gonna work. So have fun.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Boombray. Mrs. Stewart Campbell.
Oh, Mr. Gowan, I'm gonna miss you. This guy, it's been, I don't know, probably 5 times over the past 5 years. I'm like, what? My password changed. I mean, what? Can't get into board docs. And one time was in the evening. I was like, oh, I know he won't see it till tomorrow. And he answered me that night. He's like, try this. I was like, woohoo, I'm in. Anyway, we're gonna miss you. Thank you so much. And yeah, you're doing, everyone completely understands. And anyway, thank you for everything. Okay. The Teacher of the Year, the United States Teacher of the Year. I just was reading about her. Her name is Misty Testerman, and she's from Tennessee. And I thought it was very interesting that she is an EL teacher. And yeah, I don't know if there had been an English learner Teacher of the Year before, but that of course got my attention. And so I was reading about her, and she was talking in the interview about some of the like extra things she does as being an EL teacher. And she said that she said, just last week, I helped the mother of one of my students find tax documents in her native language. And she said that she also helps schedule doctor's appointments for her students and helps their parents contend with utility companies and government bureaucracies. And it just got me thinking also about like what the bilingual para said tonight about all the important like stuff they do for parent outreach. And I don't know, I just love it that our Teacher of the Year is an EL teacher. So in that same vein, and I already spoke with Dr. Anderson about this, and I just wanted to tell everybody else that I spoke with Dr. Anderson about this, and I don't know if this can happen or not, but I hope that it can. Okay, transportation. So, you know, our Ukrainians have district provided transportation, which is wonderful. I think that was a great idea, Dr. Anderson, to offer them this. You know, they don't know English, they're scared, they're in a new country. So the district transportation comes to their door and gets them to school. And that's wonderful. My ask is that we can do the same thing for other kids who are newcomers, but just don't have that refugee status. So, and that the label, it's really about like a label. Like, so our Ukrainians can come with that label of refugee, but many of our Central American students, they're also fleeing like horrific situations like drug cartels and gang violence and brutal dictators, and had no choice but to leave. And they don't have district transportation. And wouldn't it be nice if they did? So I know it would really help with attendance. I'm thinking of some kids I've heard about who it's just so hard to like navigate the system to know like, well, what does this mean? Where's my bus stop? It's 2 blocks away. It's still dark out in the winter. I'm scared. So they just don't go to school. So anyway, I just wanted you all to know that Dr. Anderson and I had a conversation about that. And I'm hoping that's something that we can provide for all of our newcomer students. And anyway, so the third thing I want to talk about, and Mr. Tatum, you said how in 2 weeks we're going to talk about just whatever issues that are on our minds to delve into, and I have one. And I also told Dr. Anderson that she and I also talked about this. I would really like to learn more about open campus at our high schools, like why we do it, and all the districts that don't do it, what the advantages are, what the disadvantages are. So I've heard a lot of disadvantages but there must be some advantages. So I would like to hear what those are. So that's just a topic I want to talk about. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the choices, well, Topeka West has the most choices, but yeah, some of our others don't. There's just a lot of issues with open campus. So it's safety being a big one. Anyway, but yeah, if we could talk about that sometime soon, that'd be great.
I've made a note of it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got.
Mrs. Bowley.
I hope that more than myself were texting legislators this morning after the email from Dr. Anderson. I'm hoping that you spent some time on the list that Mr. Edwards gave to you on the bill 378. And it's a bill that we do know passed the House with a very small majority. So thank you. If any of you did happen to text in, thank you. It's a veto covered. In other words, if the governor would veto it, it cannot be beat in the House at this stage. It goes to the Senate. So if anybody asks you to do some emailing, please do. It's a really bad bill for school districts. So please do that. I want to recognize Ross Elementary. Last night, they gave a huge, wonderful program celebration of their 40 business partners. And they asked those business partners to Ross Elementary. They had a dinner. They had students doing the seating, the greeting, the cleaning, removing the plates. They were like little hawks. Are you done eating yet? They knew what their job was, but they probably had about 30 of those business partners there. It was a wonderful evening. I want to thank Ross Elementary for including me in that celebration. I got a certificate for all the assistance I do with Ross Elementary. So it was a wonderful evening and such a great way to celebrate our business partners. 40. They have a list of 40. It's incredible.
Wow.
I wanted to congratulate Topeka West Theater Department on a regional honorary ensemble for their program of Chicago. It was just so fantastic. It's being recognized nationally. So wanted to congratulate them. I wanted to ask our leadership team, Keisha is changing the way they're doing accreditation. They're going to be doing some training this spring and summer, and I would like to request a seat there if I could, so I understand all those changes and what our district needs to do. But that's coming down the pipeline, and I'd really like to be able to sit on that if you believe that that's appropriate. I also wanted to thank all the teachers and students that took time out of their day to write me birthday cards. I had so much fun going through them. And so I hope they'll see this sometime. Thank you so much. It made me feel so special. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, Mrs. Schmidt.
One thing that put on the list, we kind of talked about it, and that was just, and you brought it up, that all the survey results, we're going to link out there. If we could just make sure that that's communicated out to all the staff. So we just don't assume that they go on and look just like we assume they know who we are as board members. So just to make sure we communicate that to them so they can go out and look at that. And then I just have to say, it is always so fun to have Highland Park High School and Mike and team here and to see all the amazing things they're doing. I think they're often overlooked in our district just because of their location in the city. And it just goes to show you that people shouldn't make assumptions. So that's it.
All right, Mr. Munoz.
Speaking of Highland Park and East Topeka, if you're in the area and you're looking for a coffee, Milk and Honey is selling particular coffees, and part of that goes to scholarships for Topeka and Highland Park students. So hop over there and pick up a coffee there. And speaking of our young people getting ready for that next chapter in their lives, for those, if you know of students who are learners, but more hands-on, there is an event on the 9th, which is, I think, Tuesday next week. Build My Future. It's put together by the Topeka Home Builders Association. The trades are in an amazing place if that's what what gets you going. Learning trades can set you up for an amazing career that pays well. And I just want to encourage students that if you feel like that might be something that excites you, I want to encourage anyone who are in our schools to share that. Parents would encourage you to push your children if you think that that's something for them. Encourage them to explore that. Again, that's going to be at the Topeka Expo Center on the Tuesday the 9th from 8:30 until the afternoon. And the last thing, congratulations to our Distinguished Staff Awards for 2024. A number of amazing individuals, one of which is in the room today. But we have amazing individuals throughout all of our schools, but this is something that's voted on by their peers, and so it's an incredible recognition. So congratulations.
All right, Dr. Schumacher.
We had Technology Committee on March 25th. Tech team, and Mr. Gowan. I value you a lot, and I hope you know that. I am saving all the secrets to divulge on July 1st. So, but we talked about we talked about synergy and the upcoming summer courses and requesting those through Synergy and getting ready for our second registration round this April, just like we did last April, after we make sure that's working correctly. We talked about the rollout of Tyler Munis a little bit, and then we had some good conversation around maybe some of the struggles that some of the teachers face and kind of workshop some of those. So I always value and appreciate you. I tomorrow will be part of the Robinson Career Fair. And so that'll be great. And then look forward to Roll and Read on the 13th at Evergy Plaza. And the things for discussion, we've talked a couple of times about cell phones in school, and how does that contribute to behavior? How does that contribute to, our students' mental health? And I think that's bigger than a meeting 2 weeks from now or 2 meetings from now or whenever. But I think still worth keeping that on our radar, because that is something that we had brought up in our board goals previously. And then something that's come to me more recently in my home life and in my work life, just talking with parents. But there used to be somebody in my house that went to schools a couple days a week and volunteered in schools and spent a lot of time with teachers. And I think there were a lot of parents that did that, and then COVID happened. And I don't think we've found our way back to that. And when we talk about parent involvement and we look at our PTOs and our DCAC, how can we wrap our mind around what are some other ways outside of coming to this meeting at 7:00 at night when you have baseball and soccer and drumline and whatever? What are some other ways we can look at parent involvement? And are there things that we're doing differently now, maybe for the better when we talk about campus security and that kind of stuff? But are there some things that we're doing differently now that might be hurting us? So those are my 2 things.
Okay, thank you. Those are definitely great suggestions. And I have to say that Dr. Schumacher stole both of the things I was going to talk about. Well, he didn't even know it.
I read your notes.
I want to definitely plug the Roll and Read, piggybacking off of Dr. Schumacher's comments. I was really excited about the Roll and Read this year that's happening in a couple of weeks from now. And unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because I have to be at a work event in Wichita that weekend. But the next one, I'm gonna plug it in now and carve out that time. I love reading to kids. It's just a fun, fantastic experience. So I'll miss it this year. I don't think I had any regular committees, but I was the board representative at the DCAC meeting earlier this week. Mrs. Bowley was there. And to Dr. Schumacher's point, I think that's a body of volunteers that are really trying to figure out how to gain more involvement from members of the community. That impacted the meeting as far as turnout was concerned. And it is something that they're actively thinking about because they've got elections for the DCAC coming up. So I think the point is well taken about how can we encourage that kind of civic engagement, even if it looks a little bit different than what we've traditionally seen as involvement at the school district level. Other than that, the meeting went well. I shared some highlights. Dr. Anderson shared some highlights, and it was a pretty good meeting. And I think that is all that I have. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move the meeting adjourned.
Do we have a second? Mrs. Schmidt seconds. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, raise your hand.